Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the February 18th episode of Drone Radio Live. Bill working the counter, as always, on top of his audio-visual specialties. We appreciate that, Bill. Thank you very much. So again, tonight's February 18th. We've got a great show planned for you tonight. We're going to be going over a couple of hot topics in the news right now. We're going to be discussing a new contest that we're launching at multi-rotorforums.com. We've got our Pro Aerial Tip number 2, sponsored by ProAdrenaline.com. And to top it all off, we're going to be speaking with John Bartram. That's where you put the photo on the screen, Bill. Speaking with John Bartram. There we go. Speaking with John Bartram, he is the Category Manager, FPV, specifically at hobbyking.com. He's going to be talking to us about hobbyking.com, how they got started, where they're at today, as well as what's happening in the FPV category specifically. So, a little bit about myself. If you haven't seen the show, maybe this is the first time, you don't know who I am. My name is Bart Cacciola. I am the host of Drone Radio Live. I'm also the host at multi-rotorforums.com. We do the show to share what we learn at the website, to bring to you the best and latest information in the world of multi-rotor helicopters. You're welcome to call in at any time during the show. The Skype address for the call-in is Drone Radio Live 1. So we also have Drone Radio Live 2, but that's not going to be live. That's not going to be active tonight. So my background, I've been flying radio controls since I was 15. That's 1983. Do the math. I'm 47 last year, 48 this year. And my background, I'm an engineer by education, graduated Rutgers back in '91. I now fly for a major U.S. airline. That's my career. So we've been at multi-rotorforums.com, building, flying, sharing the world of multi-rotor helicopters since January of 2011. We were the first forum to actually have a dedicated DJI area. We were cranking out posts and threads about the Wukong, the NASA, then the Phantom, as soon as that stuff was on the market. So we've been around the block a few times. We know what the best stuff is. We know some of the dodgy stuff. We try not to focus on it, but we do know our stuff. So stop by the site if you have a question. Register at the site, post your thread, put pictures up of what's giving you problems. We're happy to help you out. Welcome to the show. So starting off, we're going to be talking about the news first. The most recent news that we have at multi-rotor forums and in the larger world of multi-rotor helicopters. And I should say the show is based in the United States, specifically New Jersey, where the office is, where the studio is. And that being the case, we seem to be focused a lot on what's happening with the FAA and their efforts to regulate UAS, unmanned aerial systems, UAVs, multi-rotor helicopters, quadcopters, whatever you want to refer to them as. The smaller ones that we fly specifically are small UAS or SUAS. So the news this week is that tomorrow, February 19th, there's no card for this, Bill. You can relax. Bill's back there looking up, looking down, looking up, looking down, looking at his notes, trying to figure out which graphic he's supposed to be displaying on the screen. Tomorrow's February 19th, which is an important date in this new process that we've all been forced to. Oh, there is actually a card for this, Bill. This is the registration card. You can go ahead and put that up on the screen. There it is. The new process that we've been introduced to, which is registration of small unmanned aerial systems by the FAA. The website is on the screen, registermyuas.faa.gov. It is a huge pain in the butt. So we have to do it. Tomorrow is the last day that you can fly without having your aircraft registered. You don't have to register by tomorrow, but you can't fly after tomorrow if you haven't registered. The process is $5. Your registration lasts for 3 years. I have to use my glasses. And you're going to get one registration number, which is going to go prominently on all of your aircraft. So they're registering the person. Your number goes on all of your aircraft. You have to register, or you have to put your number on any aircraft that are heavier than about half a pound. And there's the graphic. I think it's 250 grams. Up to 55 pounds. Above 55 pounds, it's a special category of model aircraft. So That's what your registration is going to cover, and that's how it's going to go. So register by tomorrow if you want to continue flying. After tomorrow, you don't have to register. You can keep your aircraft at home. Anything under half a pound, you can continue to fly it. But if you want to fly after tomorrow, you have to register. I'll be registering tomorrow. I haven't done it yet. I apologize, anybody who's watching from the FAA. Okay, the next thing up on the docket from the world of news, we don't have Patrick Egan with us tonight. We had talked, I think I had advertised in some of our online media that Patrick was going to be with us, and at the last minute I found out he was going to be on the road, so he's not with us. So the second thing for tonight is what has come to be known as the amendment to House of Representatives Bill 4441. And what 4441 is the Aviation, I was meant to read it, but it's about Innovation, Reform, and Reauthorization Act. Most people talk about it as the FAA Reauthorization Act. And what it does is it funds the FAA into the future. I think it's every 2 years they do this, or 3 years. And this bill is the way that Congress funds the FAA, but at the same time, they issue any directives where they want to reorganize or give specific direction or specific guidance to the FAA. The big deal with this, as it came out of the gate, was that they're trying to carve out ATC, which is air traffic control, and assign it to a not-for-profit corporation, which is typically referred to as privatization of ATC. I would imagine the people in the FAA were completely caught off guard by this, and I would guess that they're really upset. So while they're dealing with that, we have this amendment, which was introduced by Representative Rodney, I don't have my glasses on, I think it was Rodney Davis. Yeah, Rodney Davis from Illinois. This caught a lot of us off guard. We were talking about rumors a couple of episodes ago where the FAA was possibly going to issue some new commercial standards for operators of SUAS sometime later this year. So this Micro UAS thing by one of these representatives, the guy from Illinois, Rodney Davis, we were pretty surprised because this is something, if you followed this field, multi-rotor helicopters, I think it was Brendan Schulman 2 or 3 years ago. I'm not sure who he was working for. If I had to make a wild guess, I'd say it was probably DJI or somebody. But I think it was Brendan Schulman before he was hired by DJI to work in-house. I'm pretty sure he was trying to run this up the flagpole, trying to get some traction down in Washington for a Micro UAS classification. And what this is up to 4.4 pounds, including the payload, so any cameras, sensors, batteries, etc. The way this has been written by Representative Davis, I have the text of it here, and we'll talk about this just a little bit. According to this amendment, it has to be operated below 400 feet, and you can also see it on your screen there. Less than 4.4 pounds, below 400 feet. It cannot fly faster than 40 knots. You have to maintain line of sight with the aircraft, which most of us think is a pretty good idea anyway. And you can only do it during daylight hours. Now, there's a requirement that if you're within 5 miles of an airport, you have to reach out to the airport manager. If it's an uncontrolled field, which means there's no control tower and planes kind of come and go as they please. If there's a control tower, you have to contact that controlling facility and let them know what you're doing. If there's no threat, if you've followed these guidelines according to this amendment, which is not in place yet, so none of this is required yet, but according to this, you could fly within 5 miles of an airport if you satisfy these very relatively simple things that they want you to do. There's no knowledge test required, and there's no experience exam required, and to top it all off, this allows you to operate commercially, which is really the linchpin of the whole thing. So they're going to give you a Micro UAS classification, smaller than, this is below SUAS classification. This is going to be micro, and this is going to allow you to operate for hire if you fall within all of those criteria, less than 4.4 pounds, below 400 feet AGL, etc. Okay, now, some people are saying, well, this is confusing. We have to register our aircraft. There's a 333 exemption. There's this less than 0.5 pound thing for registration. And that's right, it is confusing. So we made this little chart. So if this amendment were to succeed, if this were to remain attached to the FAA reauthorization bill, and if that were to be passed as it is, there's going to be a huge fight over this. There's going to be a huge fight over this thing when it happens. But if it happens to get through, and if this amendment happens to survive the way it was written, this is what you could probably expect. This is my best guess. Less than 0.5 pounds, you'll be able to operate commercially. So that what that chart says is registration and COM is commercial, okay? So less than 0.5 pounds, you won't have to register it, and you'll be able to operate it commercially. I don't know what that means. It's less than half a pound. What can you really do with it other than chase bees around or something? Chase Bill while he's trying to run the show. You didn't think of that, did you? I could have been doing that this whole time. If it's between 0.5 and 4.4 pounds, okay, you are going to have to register it, and you can operate it commercially. Nothing in this bill says you are relieved of FAR 48. That's my sheet for the show, actually. Nothing in this bill says you're relieved of what is actually FAR 48 now, which is the registration FARs, or Federal Aviation Regulations. So it doesn't say you're relieved of FAR 48 with this. So Micro UAS, you're going to have to register, but between 0.5 and 4.4 pounds, it'll still be registered according to what we're doing right now, and you'll be able to operate commercially without any further experience testing, knowledge testing, certification by the FAA. Greater than 4.4 pounds, you're still going to have to register it. You won't be able to operate it commercially without a 333 exemption until such time that that 333 exemption goes away and the FAA publishes what we hope is going to be a much easier process for getting yourself up and running for hire. Okay? So that's our take on it, multirotorforums.com. If you disagree, come to the website, be gentle, you know, and sometimes I don't get enough sleep, so be gentle, but we'll discuss it. We'll try to make sense of it. This bill also, or this amendment, has a couple of interesting things. First of all, after they tell you the criteria, you can get rid of that screen, Bill. After the criteria where they talk about, you know, how you're going to be able to operate, they pointed out, and this is pretty forward thinking pretty forward thinking in terms of who wrote this, because we've seen the FAA when Congress tries to do something, when they lose in court, we've seen the FAA try to fight back. You know, they don't just take it and say, okay, great. What they do is they say, well, how can we change the outcome of what just happened so that this, again, goes the way we want it to go? So what they've done with this amendment was they've said parts and equipment that are on the helicopter are not going to be forced to meet airworthiness criteria, because what the FAA could do is say, okay, Representative Davis is trying to do a little end around the FAA, so the FAA could say, okay, great, you don't have to have any authorization to fly them, but the parts have to be certified by us. This amendment says, no, the FAA can't stop you from flying your home-built helicopters. You don't have to have FAA certified parts. They also go on to say that the no aeronautical knowledge test or experience requirement, and that's another end around. The FAA can't say, okay, you can fly your helicopters, we're not going to certify the parts, but we're going to require you pass a written and a practical exam. That's like a flight test. So that's already built into this. They've also excluded Micro UAS from a number of FARs. I didn't look up each one specifically. Part 91 is typically private operations, like private pilot type stuff. But like I said, Part 48, which is the registration process that we've all come to know in the last month or two, that's not excluded. So even if you do get this Micro UAS classification, it'll still be subject to the registration requirements. Okay, that's my take on it, at least based on my experience with the FAA. Now tonight it is Throwback Thursday, right? So I've got my Throwback Hoverfly shirt on. I got 2 of these from them. The first time I bought my first Hoverfly Pro, I happened to have it on today, and so here I am in front of the camera with it because I haven't been home since this morning. That's not true, I was home. And tonight we've got a nice little Yingling Porter on the bench here, just to keep my throat from drying out. Thank you very much, Bill. Yingling Porter, that's a favorite of mine. Okay, so moving right along, that's it for the news. Like always, any questions, come to multirotorforums.com, register, start a thread, ask your questions. We're happy to talk about this stuff. In fact, we love talking about this stuff. Now, next up, we have a segment sponsored by ProAdrenaline.com. Let's go back to camera number 1 for a change, please. ProAdrenaline.com is the North American distributor of ProDad software products. ProDad is based in Germany. ProAdrenaline.com is their North American distributor of the products. The products are Respeeder, ProAdrenaline, and Mercalli. What they are is a software that's used not for editing software, but for improving and processing the software. So if you have some footage from your helicopter that has a little shake that you didn't anticipate, if you have a little footage that's maybe has some fisheye, they have the ability to process that out to improve the footage that you have. Now, what we're doing is, with each episode of Drone Radio Live, we're adding a segment called Pro Aerial Tips. So this is number 2, sponsored by ProAdrenaline.com. What happens a lot of times with new operators of aerial equipment, aerial media equipment, helicopters with cameras and shooting video or photos, people have these things and they're so amazed by them, they're so excited, so enthusiastic, they want to go out there and get the shot that has the most dynamic, they want to get their most aerialness out of it that they possibly can. So what they do is they go out and they fly and they turn and they dive and climb and pull back and zoom in. And what happens is, if they're doing a whole project and they're just super enthusiastic about this, they're going to try to do a whole project with a lot of this kind of footage. It's very dynamic footage. There's a time and a place for that. There's a time and a place. If you're working with other people, they might tell you, hey, we want all the aerialness you could put into your aerials. But a lot of times, it's not all that. So the tip for today is that when you're doing your projects, when you're fine-tuning your skills, when you're out there doing your thing as an aerial media person, less is more. That's our pro aerial tip for today. Bill's smiling. He got it right this time. Last week, I barely opened my mouth and he had the tip up on the screen. So yeah, less is more. Less aerial is better sometimes.
That's what she said.
Really, a really common use of all this stuff is in real estate. With real estate, if you're a buyer of a house and you're looking at this footage, and yeah, there's great aerial shots, you want time to look at the house. You want time to look at the landscaping, the walkways, the driveway, where the pool is, the pool house, whatever it is. So you want time to be able to see that stuff. If the camera operator is like doing evasive maneuvers like he's Apocalypse Now or something, you know. I just made that up. That wasn't a prepared comment. No, I mean, if you're flying this thing, yeah, what'd you say, Dukes of Hazzard?
Goose and Maverick.
Yeah, Goose and Maverick, you know, duking it out, trying to stay above the hard deck. Anyway, if you're flying this thing, you know, like, I hate to say it, balls to the wall, that doesn't make for good aerial footage. Even slightly doesn't always make for good aerial footage. So if you're at an event, if you're shooting some beautiful landscape, if you're shooting real estate, less is more. Very rarely are you going to find that more is more. So think about mixing in some B-roll, which is some ground footage, just, you know, slow pans, even still shots that let the natural movement of the surroundings tell the story. Time-lapse stuff is always interesting. That's fun to do. Maybe a couple of stills. Maybe get some great slow shutter still shots, a little blur in the background, whatever it is. But do stuff that's creative. Don't overdo the aerial. And above all else, when you're doing these projects, prepare ahead of time. Prepare your shots. Prepare your equipment. When you're out there flying, you might only have one shot to get this stuff. So when it comes down to it, with all this stuff aside, get the shot. Get the best shot you can at the time that it's happening. When you get home, you know, get as much footage as you can with the time that you have while you're on scene. But when you get home, keep in mind a product like ProAdrenaline from ProAdrenaline.com or their higher end product, which is Mercalli, that stuff does wonders. And I said this last time, I happen to know because back in the day when camera mounts were driven by servos and I was building modifications between, you know, trips to the job site, you really didn't have a choice other than to use something like Mercalli from ProDad. So there was a time when we were all very well versed in this software. Prodrenalin is their consumer version. It's about $50 from their website. You can download a free 30-day copy, which allows you to run up to 10-second segments through the software, and it does wonders. There's also samples at prodrenalin.com showing you what it can do for your footage. I highly recommend you at least give it a try, get the sample footage. If you've got a 250 quad with a fixed camera that you can record footage like a Mobius or the Foxeer Legend, you can get footage on that that's usable. Even if it's borderline, you're going to be, especially if you go to prodrenalin.com and you check out the sample stuff, you're going to be absolutely amazed at what a good job it does to stabilize the worst footage. As always with all of this aerial footage stuff, aerial video, the better the footage is at the beginning out of the camera, the better it's going to be in your project when it's edited in. And the better the footage is, the better it's going to come out of Prodrenalin. But the point is, be prepared, spend the time that you have getting as much footage as possible. If something's happening, get the shot, and then when you get home, don't forget you have this tool available to make the footage even better. Okay? So that's our Prodrenalin Pro Aerial Tips number 2. Now, next, you might be watching this because you know that at Multi-Rotor Forums we like to throw a good contest. And we've got a new contest, and it's sponsored by HobbyKing.com. Our special guest today is also from Hobby King. We're not quite to him yet, John, if you're listening. In fact, we're going to need to call John in about a minute or so. But our contest is... Did I just knock my mic out? Oh, yeah. Scratch my leg. It's about 20 degrees here, and I've got heavy wool socks on, and they're itching my legs. Okay, I'll be honest. So anyway, the contest is as follows. Let me get the box of prize stuff. A really common motor right now is what people are using on these 250 size racing quads, okay? It is 1804, I think. This one's 1806, 2300 kV, okay? So they're very inexpensive. They're about 10 or 12 bucks a piece, maybe 16 for the good ones. They run a 12 amp ESC, and 4 of them with 5-inch props actually carry a decent amount of weight. So here's the contest. Use 4 of those motors, okay? And that's the only real restriction that we're going to require. 4 motors, 1806, 2300 kV. You can use a 3 or a 4 cell LiPo. Obviously a 4 cell is going to give you more lift. But here's what you have to do with it. You have to go look around your house, and what you have to do is you have to find something household-ish. Could be from the garage, could be from the kitchen, could be from your kid's toy chest, okay? And what you have to do is use your creativity to build that into a quadcopter. The more unusual it is, the better it's going to be, okay? But we still want to see some flight performance, so it can't be, you can't try to lift the sofa off the ground. It's got to be maneuverable, it's got to have some flying qualities, but the more unusual, the more creative, the better. We'd like to see you post some videos of it to the website. We're going to give you about 6 to 8 weeks. I'm going to post all of this information to a thread at Multi-Rotor Forum, so you'll have the details. That's also where you'll post your video entries to that thread. We ask when you post your video on YouTube or Vimeo that you label it multirotorforums.com. We'll come up with a name for the contest. I don't have a name for the contest. I'm usually very informal about contests. I like to have as few rules as possible. How about we switch cameras once in a while? Thanks, Bill. I usually like to be very informal about contests because I like to have your creativity. I like to give you as much freedom as possible to be as creative as possible. But I'll organize all of this. We'll give it a name, and we'll post it to the website. So use 4 1806 2300 kV motors, 3 or 4 cell LiPos for power, 5-inch props. You could use 3 blades if you want. You could use 4 blades if you want. But find something around the house, build a quad, and before you say, Bart, you're a poser, that's a horrible contest, look at the stuff we have to give away. This is from Hobby King. We have video equipment. We have a video transmitter, 5.8 gigahertz, 40 channels, 200 megawatts. That'll get you around any park, up and down any little stream that you might have by your house. That's pretty good range. And that includes a nice cloverleaf antenna as well. That's a Quantum Q58-2 video transmitter. We've got the receiver to go with it. Autoscan, 5.8 gigahertz, also Quantum. And It displays the battery voltage. It takes up to 12.6 volts, so that's 3-cell LiPo, which is 11.1. And let's see, it scans. I believe you can hit a button, it'll scan for your transmitter. Okay, we've got the camera to go with it, Turnigy 2K HD camera. This is kind of like a GoPro format, so the whole package is included. We have this stuff in hand. It's going to be a winner takes all. We're not going to divvy this stuff up, say, oh, that's the most interesting kitchen-based quad, that's the most interesting toy chest quad, that's the most interesting ping pong paddle quad. This is a winner takes all, and we're going to talk about the format. You have a adapter wire for the camera to get to the transmitter. We've got a pair of Quantum, I didn't take the tape off of this, but the Quantum V2 video goggles. This is the one that you see quite a bit at fly-ins and stuff. They actually work really well. They're very inexpensive. They're lightweight. Has a foam headpiece with a display that snaps into place. And then we've also got a 480 size quadcopter frame. Okay, now the one thing we're missing here, and I asked John about this afternoon when we were doing our sound check. I said, John, I like to get as much as I can for the guys at the site. And I remember you telling me that you were going to throw in an RC system. And I know a lot of people out there like the, oh, it just jumped out of my head. No, not Turnigy. What's the one everyone loves? It's programmable. It runs the, what's that? Tyrannus. Tyrannus, that's right. Just right out of my head. I know everybody loves a Tyrannus. Everyone has a soft spot for that. But they're giving us a Turnigy i10 RC system, which has all the telemetry. It has a big touchscreen display. It looks like a really nice radio. John's going to talk about it a little bit when he comes on. But that's the prize package. Very generous of Hobby King to send this stuff to us, to sponsor the contest. And we appreciate it. I hope you guys rise to the occasion. I want to see a lot of entries. I want to see some good stuff. If you're watching the show right now, you got to jump on everybody else that's going to see it tomorrow at the website. Should be a fun contest. And like I said, we'll finalize what few rules we have in the thread at the website. So multi-rotorforums.com, look for the contest thread. Okay, so our special guest tonight is John Bartram. He has spent time in the Royal Navy, the Royal Australian Navy. He spent time working for Qantas Airlines, and he's currently FPV Category Manager at hobbyking.com. So, do we have him on our Skype line? We do, and there he is. Can you hear me? You can hear me okay, John?
Yeah, I can hear you. G'day, Bart, and g'day, Bill.
Yes. Good day, John. I've never said that to anybody. Good day, John. Good day, John.
Good day, John.
First of all, thank you very much for your generosity and for your support of the website. We really appreciate it. It's going to be a fun contest. Hopefully, we're going to see some crazy stuff from our members at the website as far as entries go. Thank you very much.
Our pleasure.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first? You're a higher up at Hobby King, but what did you do? You told me you did something in the Navy for Australia?
Yeah, when I was a young lad, I was an aircraft mechanic for the Royal Australian Navy. After that, spent many years with Qantas Airlines as a technical instructor, and finished up there about 1.5 years ago after 30 years as the Chief Training Coordinator for the Airbus project.
Airbus what?
Airbus A380s.
A380.
Yeah.
That's a real airplane.
That's one of those little ones.
Before that, you flew that other real airplane, a Boeing product. Are you were
Boeing 747-400s,
Yes.
300s, 200s, and SPs.
Wow. Oh, the SP, that was a cool airplane.
Yes, party plane. Very nice machine.
Yes. And I should just say real quick, you're calling us very graciously from Australia. We're in New Jersey, so we've got, I don't know, 8,000 or 9,000 miles maybe, probably 8,200 miles if I had to take a wild guess. So our Skype connection, we're going to make the best of it. We're going across under ocean wires and stuff to speak to each other. So if the audio quality is a little shady, if I don't understand something, I might just ask you to repeat it, okay? We'll ask our viewers at home to cut us a break on that one. But yeah, so Airbus A380, 747s, that's your technical background. I was curious the first time I spoke to you and you told me that. I said, well, how did you end up one day running the training and technical specs on the Airbus program at Qantas to shipping goggles around the world for Hobby King?
Just living the dream, Bart. It was basically after 30 years at Qantas Airlines, there was a lovely retrenchment package waiting for me, like a big wheelbarrow full of money. So I grabbed the handles and ran to the door.
Okay.
And one of my friends had seen the ad on the Hobby King website for category managers and said that I should apply. And
Wow.
so I applied and didn't expect to hear back because there are many thousands of people worldwide applying for these type of positions. And then I got a phone call from my now boss, Toby Osmond, who interviewed me and said, "Congratulations, you're in." So yeah, living the dream. 5 minutes from home, get to play with all the good toys.
Nice.
Knowing but, you know, it's a marketing office with 5 or 6 category managers in here and a marketing team. And yeah, we just concentrate on looking at the products that the product specialists in Hong Kong send our way and determining basically, you know, is it suitable for market and how many do we want?
Oh, interesting. Knowing what I know about the people that run all the tech pubs, you know, technical publications, all the training programs at the airline, I would imagine you have excellent organizational skills and are very comfortable dealing with piles of manuals and revisions and all this stuff, keeping it all in order. So somebody like Hobby King comes along and you've got you know, a lot of experience handling piles of very technical stuff. You were probably a natural for the job. Although you're probably kind of using, if you were using 15% of your brain at Qantas, all the skills and organizational experience, you're probably down to what, about 7.5, maybe 8 at Hobby King running the show. So that was a good deal. They had you step up and you were probably highly qualified compared to that pile of applicants they had. If I had to guess.
I must say, Bart, it's been a bit of a vertical learning curve for the last 12 months. So I thought I was on the top of my game with avionics and computers and all the stuff fitted to modern airliners. And then when I started playing with some of the gear in the FPV systems, some of the flight controllers fitted to multi-rotor aircraft and drones.
Right.
Yeah, it was like going back to school again for the first month.
Okay. Now, we talked about Hobby King a little bit.
Sure.
You know, I first found out about Hobby King when it was still Hobby City. And you said they went from that to Hextronics?
Yeah, to Hextronic and then to Hobby King.
And then to Hobby King. So it used to be in the day that the Hobby King website, the Hobby City website, was a lot of very inexpensive, cheaply made hobby gear. There were some things in there that, you know, some gold nuggets in there. But, you know, Hobby King had a reputation for cranking out a lot of inexpensive stuff. Some of it dubious quality, but a lot of that's been overcome. So what's the mission today at Hobby King? What are they trying to accomplish? What direction are they going in with this?
Well, that statement you made about price point is probably the most important one there, Bart. We want to be able to give our community, and people throw the word community around quite easily these days, but there is a big Hobby King community out there. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're looking on forums like RC Groups or your own forum and our own forums, there's always people there that are having problems or issues or whatever. But given the many, many thousands of customers that we ship stock out to on a daily basis, there's a lot of good news stories there. And when I go to my local flying club, the community there is, you know, you look down the flight line and 3/4 of the products being used for whatever they're doing there would have come out of our warehousing system. So we're all about giving the community access to good quality products, innovative products. We're trying to increase our range, especially in FPV with things in the Quantum brand line, with innovative products that the customers have been asking for, and that our competitors just don't have, and then pushing them out at a super competitive price point.
Yeah,
we're a margin company, high volume and low margin, and getting the quality up there.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of your Turnigy Nanotech batteries. I use those almost exclusively, and they've worked really well for me. So, you know, there's good
stuff there, but we've got you're all geared up with the old green multi-stars there, aren't you?
No, I don't. I've never used the multi-stars. I started out with half a dozen of the Turnigy, the blue packs, and they worked okay. And I tried the Nanotechs, and they worked great. Before we get to the new batteries, though. I see what you're doing there. Getting back to where Hobby King's going as a company, we talked about the support center that they have out on Long Island. We have multiple warehouse locations. There's 2 in the U.S., 1 in the U.K., there's 1 in Russia. Plus you ship...
Netherlands, Australia.
Right, plus we could always order from Hong Kong. But where's the big mystery with Hobby King for a lot of people. I think I know the answer, but where are the headquarters? Where are all the corporate people making the decisions? It's not in China.
No, definitely not. The company, as you know, is run by a gentleman by the name of Anthony Hand, an Australian, who he's based with his executive team sitting in Hong Kong.
Right.
And the
he's based in Hong Kong?
Yeah, based in Hong Kong, and the marketing and sales office is based here in Sydney, Australia.
I thought the owner was in Australia also.
No. Well, the boss comes from Australia, so he jets backwards and forwards. He has family here as well. His father is involved in the business, who looks after all our logistics and warehousing worldwide. Right. So it's a pretty good concern. These guys, the team in Hong Kong is basically our product sourcing team, and in there are a lot of expatriate Australians, Americans and Brits, and they're getting out and looking at, firstly, what customers are wanting by talking to people, meeting people in all these events that we travel around to worldwide, right? And then heading off to find from our suppliers these products that we can bring to market for our customers. Right.
Okay, cool. Now, your specialty is the category FPV at Hobby King. And I'll tell you what, I went to, normally I go to the Hobby King website, I just pull off what I need, and I don't even notice a lot of the other stuff that's on there. But today, because I was trying to pull a logo from the website, I was looking at some of the products that you sent us as prize, some of the prize package you sent us for the new contest. Some of this other stuff caught my eye. I knew there were cars and boats and stuff. I saw control line airplanes. I never noticed that before. No, yep. Bill, not yet. I saw the control line planes, which I never saw before. There was a little biplane there for $15 a kit, so I think I'm going to be ordering one of those this week. I also saw there's archery equipment, there's bikes. I didn't realize that Hobby King had expanded into all of these other, they're not even hobbies, they're like recreational supplies.
Yeah, the line is blurred between what is a hobby and what is a pastime or recreation, and archery equipment is a hobby to a lot of people. Right. We've just branched out into that. Even things, allied products. You might be operating FPV out in the field somewhere, and you've got a buddy that's over the hill somewhere. We have things like UHF, VHF, handheld two-way radio systems for people to use in the field. Action cameras, as you've already spoken about. Right. We've got, and good brand names too, things like ISAW, plus our own brands of things such as Turnigy action cameras, the base models, the Wi-Fi models, the 2K one that you've got there, the black edition. Right. So yeah, it's all about the fact that, what is a hobby? Yeah, no, it's interesting to see. Hobby these days. It's all happening unbeknownst to me. I have a couple of foamies from Hobby King. I have, I have bins full of connectors and wires and heat shrink. Your blue Velcro strips, that stuff is awesome. So I have a lot of stuff. Yes. I have a lot of different stuff from Hobby King, but I didn't realize, I never even noticed there were all these other things going on at the website. So your category is FPV. And we talked a little bit earlier today about some of the things that are happening in the hobby that you have, you've got your finger on the pulse if anybody does. So what's happening? Where are things going in the world of FPV that we should know about? What are the products and what are the future products? Well, if you have a quick look at the main menu structure on our website, you'll see we've restructured up in the top 3 and put FPV right under multi-rotors. Yes. And there'll be a new category there starting next week for FPV racing. The world of FPV racing seems to be one of the fastest growing parts of the category at the moment. Right. Aerial photography drones, and aerial photography equipment, and gimbals and cameras is still good as well. But the racing fraternities seem to be popping up all over the place. Like this time last year, there might have only been 1 or 2 clubs around here. Right. And now, there's dozens of them popping up all over the place. Right. So the racing fraternity are getting right into it. So some of the challenges there is providing them with the products they need. Sitting there on the bench there, I think you mentioned the Q58-2. What is that? Good video transmitters. Right. Yeah, little video transmitter, yeah. Yeah, that's the one things on there such as an LED display, an LED display and a simple push-button system instead of having to sit there with dip switches and try to count and read what you're up to in between races if you've got to change your channel and things like that. Right. The Quantum auto scan receiver with if you look at the bottom of it, a nice little green jack point in there for RSSI out, so you can see your signal strength.
Right.
Just over my shoulder there, my right-hand shoulder, just up here, underneath the world's most loved video goggle, the V2 that you mentioned before, you can see a large quantum base station sitting there with a video monitor on top. So you can plug 2 of those auto scan receivers in and get a full diversity base station on auto scan and display it on the monitor, have another person on a headset, and then have a tag-along passenger on a headset.
Yeah, no, I've seen those base stations at some of the meetups that I've been to. So, you know, they're out there.
Yeah.
In fact, the Quantum V1 goggles, my son is 12 years old. His buddy came over one day with a bag of stuff, and he said, "Hey, Mr. Cacciola, I know you do this stuff. I ordered this stuff from Hobby King," and he had that kit that you sell for about $75 or $80 with the video transmitter, the receiver, and it was the Quantum V1. And he put him on his RC car that he had gotten for Christmas a few months earlier. So I didn't even know about them until my son's friend Will, who might even be watching the show because he loves this stuff, he stopped by with it. We hooked it up and it worked great. I was really surprised. So the V2, and then what's the V2 Pro? This set that you sent us is the V2, which is probably an improvement over the V1, knowing how these things go. But what's the V2 Pro? The V2 Pro is coming out soon.
Yes, the V2 Pro, and if you just had a look at that camouflage glove on the unit that I've got here,
wow,
that's actually the glove for the V2 Pro. So the battery pouch is at the back,
right?
4 pouches on the side, and top strap adjustable to take the weight off your nose.
Right, we're losing you a little
side
bit.
Strap adjustable, and that glove. So that glove and what will be coming out shortly, the V2 upgrade kit, will get anyone from a V2 standard up to the V2 Pro, and then the V2 Pro standalone will come out at the same time for those that haven't bought a goggle yet. Better optics, better lenses inside instead of the Fresnel lens. It's got a pure clear magnification lens in there for you to use. And it's great even for people my age that wear glasses. You can strap it on your head with your glasses still on, slide the magnification lens backwards and forwards and get a lovely, clear, immersive experience.
Is there a performance difference between the V1 and, I'm sorry, the V2 and the V2 Pro? Or is the V2 Pro more of a physical accessory package?
V2 Pro is most probably more the ergonomics, the comfort and the fit and the weight distribution.
Right.
But yeah, look, watch this space.
Right.
Doesn't stop at V2 Pro.
Right. Ah, a little teaser there.
Just a quick one.
Future developments. So what else is happening in the world of FPV that you can tell us about? We know the racing has caught on and has gone nuts. Are you seeing different frame sizes in development for future racing categories? Are you that far ahead of this?
Yeah, look, we're looking at, originally a lot of people were blasting around with 250 frames or even a bit bigger.
Right.
But a lot of the best racers in the world now are going sub 200 to 180 size frames.
Right.
So the challenge there is being able to squeeze all that equipment in there, to be able to squeeze in the video camera, the transmitter, the receiver. You know, for instance, we brought that out as a new product just recently.
Okay.
Which is the Quantum Elite TX camera combo.
Right.
And it is, straight on the keyboard there, 5.8, 25 milliwatts. It is the camera, transmitter and antenna. And just out of the box, you may get a look at, compared to my thumb and forefinger there, the size of that bad boy.
Right. So that can go on just about anything.
There are other companies with that product out, with a similar product to this out, but we're usually at half their price. So that's to go on to some of the smaller frames, especially the indoor races. And indoor racing seems to have caught on. Then you're not outside having the same difficulties as the larger drone flyers are with entities like the FAA or CASA out here in Australia, because these guys are flying inside using go-kart tracks.
Right. Yeah, the FAA...
So it's all about smaller and faster, I think, and more maneuverable for these guys.
Yeah, when the FAA first started talking about regulations, and especially after they won in court with the NTSB court redefining what an aircraft is, they had said any navigable airspace is their domain. And since anything is an aircraft, if you were flying even a little tiny quad in your house, that quad flying in your house makes the airspace in your house navigable. So that's their domain. That was the argument that it seemed they were pushing after they won that court case.
Yeah.
But now they've kind of rolled that back a little bit with this regulations thing that they're doing. They've kind of defined indoors as off limits for them.
Yeah.
So people are going indoors here in the U.S. also. They're also going smaller. That 180 size is very common. I think 150 even is also out there flying around. That's a little too small for my old eyes and my clumpy fingers, but that little unit that you showed is pretty sharp. It allows you to put an FPV transmitter and a camera on just about anything, and it's a single supply power. It's not like you need 12 volts for the camera and 12 volts for the transmitter and 5 volts for the camera. It's all built into one, so it takes one power supply.
Yeah, it's all integrated. Well, I think that's that. You know, even a year or so ago when we brought out this product, we were heading in that direction, which was the Mobius dock.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I've never seen that. What does that go for?
Not very expensive at all, around the $20 to $30 mark, I believe, US dollars. And what we have in there is there's an integrated video transmitter in there.
Right.
Yeah. World's best antenna on there, the Omeways. Okay. It'll take your standard Mobiuses in there, Mobius C, Mobius C2, wide angle, etc.
Right, and I see your Hobby King. I see your Hobby King blue Velcro on the bottom. It's a dead giveaway, right?
Well, it's been on a number of machines in our office. It's been on a Bixler, on an EP powered glider.
Right.
It's been on the Quantum Observer FPV plane. It's been on a couple of multi-rotor frames, just for cruising around, for FPV cruising on some larger camera ships, and it's 200 milliwatts, but it's been rock solid, the signal on this thing.
Is there a built-in battery for power, or do you have to power it externally?
For this particular one, it's got an external power port on there, a JST plug, so you can split off from your main ship battery. But having said that,
it's just, you know, it's little stuff like that, like making the battery port a standard connector, like a JST, which is super common. You can get it from any shop if it isn't already on your helicopter. Little stuff like that is so helpful.
Yes, yeah, and we're getting that way where a lot of our products, we're incorporating in the box a range of cords to make it plug and play with a range of different video transmitters, etc.
Cool.
So we've got a number of those, but we have our own brands, but we're also into premium brands, RunCam, Fat Shark, etc. We stock all of these things, and we try and get the best deals from those guys as well for you.
Yeah, I've noticed that. That was probably about maybe 18 months ago. You started selling DJI. You started selling Fat Shark. Fat Shark was a little before DJI, I think. But you started selling JR. There was a rumor for a while you guys were going to start. You were going to buy JR and start manufacturing as OEM JR stuff. Was that just a rumor, or was that something that was actually in the works?
I can't comment on that, Bart. Much probably before my time. I've only been here about 14
All right,
months.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. We'll get you something else some other time. But
I'll catch up with you with that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything you want to add? I mean, it's your venue. You're the FPV Category Manager. Everyone loves to hear about that stuff. So any little tidbits you want to drop on the community at this point, we're all ears.
Sure. Well, you were talking about indoor flying and winter time and all the rest of it. We just brought that out just recently, which is the Quantum Bluetooth gaming pad. You can throw your Android device, tablet, phone, whatever into there, just unlocks and lock it up, and then you're good to go. Bluetooth binding between the handset and your device, and you're just sitting on the bus or the train, and you're flying your flight simulator, or it will also operate for all the games from the App Store that you can download onto your normal gamepad style.
Right.
Devices.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that gets people busy on the couch at home at night. And we don't forget the hobbyists. As you mentioned in an email to me before about the community, the hobbyist community, you know, we get all the way down into wires and plugs and batteries and bits and pieces and, you know, right down into our old faithful
double A
rechargeables that everyone sticks in their radios if they're using them. We've got lovely FPV headset batteries in the Quantum range that people may be interested in. These fit into Sky Zones and into Fat Sharks and a number of other products.
Right.
And as we spoke about before, other batteries.
Oh, that's the one I knew we skipped something. The new graphene packs. Yes.
Yep, that's the new guy, Bart. And look, there's a massive thread on RC groups, so I'm not going to sit here and plug them because they just plug themselves. Black is back, baby. That's the call sign.
Well, we'll start a thread at multirotorforums.com for our membership to to discuss those. From what I understand, what I've learned so far about those packs, the layers of graphene built into them give them a much lower, or not much lower, but a lower, internal resistance. So without that internal resistance, the packs are going to run cooler. You're going to have your voltages at a higher level to a later point in the pack discharge cycle. They're going to charge and discharge more cycles before they start to accumulate resistance and show wear. So they don't have a competitive weight advantage over standard LiPo packs, but they have a lot of lifespan and operational advantages if you're running your packs hard.
Yeah, yeah, they will last you a lot longer. The number of recharges, and they've got a small amount of armor plating in them as well.
A small amount of what?
The ends of the battery is protected. Armor plating, as we call it.
Oh, right. That's a metal plate?
Impact-resistant material. Yeah, it's got a sheet inside there on each side, and on the ends too. When you do take that inevitable tumble and have a smash into something hard, hopefully your battery is not going to puff up because now it's protected.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we're good, right? I think we covered everything.
Yes, my friend. Thank you very much. Thank you to you and Bill for having me on.
No, thank you very much for being our guest and for supporting our contest at multi-rotorforums.com, the world's leading dedicated multi-rotor helicopter website for the last 5 years. I should add that as a little plug for us. But yeah, thank you for coming on. We certainly appreciate your generosity. We'll let you know how the contest is going. We'll get you involved when we're ready to pick a winner. I think we might have lost you. The audio and the picture was actually... Is he still on? Are you still there, John?
I can still hear you. Can you hear me, Bart?
Yeah, no, I can hear you. The picture was breaking up there as you were talking. You're back.
Yeah,
oh, yeah, the picture's much better now.
The link was starting to die a bit there. Just in closing, look, for all the listeners out there on your channel and all the guys at Multi-Rotor Forums, please drop in and find us at any of the events in the US, in Europe and the UK, and even out here in Australia, scheduled for 2016. Just keep an eye on our website. It's all about the community, and we want to hear from you.
Appreciate it. Well, thank you very much, John, for coming on. That's a wrap. This is actually the first show we've wrapped in under an hour. So I think hooray for me. I'm going to take credit for that one. But thank you. You were a fantastic guest. We appreciate it. Come back anytime. Feel free to visit Drone Radio Live for new product announcements as they come. And we're going to call it a night. As always, you can watch Drone Radio Live archived shows at our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/user/multi-rotor forums. You can find us on Facebook at Multi-Rotor Forums. We do Twitter. It's at Multi-Rotor Forum without the S because there's not enough letters in a Twitter handle to get the S in there. And you are always welcome to come to the website. We're a worldwide community. There's almost always members logged in, surfing the threads. So join up at multirotorforums.com. Post your questions. Introduce yourself. We'd love to have you. All right, thank you for watching. Today is the February 18th, 2016 episode of Drone Radio Live. We're done. Thank you for watching.